look at how the draft, I mean, how many U.S. players are coming from those development camps and being at the top of the draft over the past, 2, 3 years. So that's spoken highly. You basically said it. The U.S., in my opinion, had the most complete roster coming into this tournament. But something else that I loved, I talked with Adam about it here on Hockey Hub also, is that I liked the fact that USA seems to be the team that can overwhelm their opponent in every aspect. They can wear you down. They can be physical. They can be fast. That's how I figured that the Florida Panthers won the Stanley Cup previously. They could beat you with speed, but they can also wear you down with their physicality and their size. There's a guy that always comes to mind. You mentioned him in your speech for the Hall of Fame. He's got two guys repping the USA in a sweater. What do you make of the Tkachuk brothers or the Bash brothers or the superheroes that they are right now for hockey?
They are the poster child of the National Hockey League. They're the poster boys. There is no question that they embody what a hockey mentality is. Keith Tkachuk had that. He's one of my best friends in the world. He was one of my favorite teammates. I had the luxury to play 5 years with Keith Tkachuk, and I know how he thinks the game, how he expects the game to be played, and he has instilled that same mentality into both of his boys. And you see the way that they go on that ice every day and the way that they prepare, and it doesn't matter who they're playing. They are playing the same in-your-face, gritty, physical, and talent-laden game that their dad did. And you said with Florida, Florida changed when Matthew Tkachuk got traded there. They turned into a gritty team. They turned into a hard team to play against. They turned into a frustrating team to play against. They turned into a team that can play any style of game. And I'm glad that you said that about the U.S. is they can play a defensive game. They can play an offensive game. They can stymie you defensively and make you frustrated like they did Canada the other day. To hold Canada to 18, 20 shots is an absolute, just an impeccable style of game that they decided to play. And the Tkachuk brothers literally are those guys that not only talk the talk, but they go out and walk the walk. And to start that game with two fights within 6 seconds of each other, two brothers, I think not only inspired the guys on the bench, but it got the whole country up on their feet and rocking and rolling. And that's the Keith Tkachuk mentality. That's the Tkachuk way. They're awesome.
I love that. I love that you said that's the Tkachuk way. Something else that I'm hoping you can give me some insight on is you do see the physicality the Tkachuks bring to the ice. And I think sometimes you're looked at and perceived as just muscle. They're just out there to be the physical presence. But what do you think is something that the Tkachuks don't get enough credit for? Because hockey IQ, you basically mentioned it with their dad, his ability to kind of manage and think through the game. Where do you think the brothers aren't getting enough credit?
That's a great question, Kasey, really, because it's one thing that you don't understand and what makes them so special is their hockey IQ is off the radar. When I first saw Matthew, I was one of the first people to pick Matthew up after he was born, both Matthew and Brady. So I've known them since they were born. When I actually watched them play as adults, Matthew was in the development camp, and I watched him play. He was not a great skater. As you can see in the National Hockey League, he's not a fantastic skater. He's very lumbering, just like his dad. Not fast, but the places that Matthew Tkachuk brings himself to, the attention to detail, the way he sees the ice and the way he sees the play, he's one of the best anticipators in the National Hockey League. Not only does he know where the puck is going and he gets himself there, but he also knows where everybody is on the ice. So when that puck gets to him, he's moving it right away. And he makes some of the most smartest passes that allow him to create some time for himself and his teammates to have time for himself. He is an unbelievable cerebral player that loves to go into the high traffic areas, go into those traffic zones, get beat up, and also give a beating. So that's why he scores a lot of goals, is because he puts himself in the mix. And Brady, who is kind of the same way, extremely brilliant and smart, is a better skater, has probably more talent with the puck, but they both see it and they both have that drive and that energy and that desire to play an all-around game and not just be there and just show up once in a while. They are there all the time. They're always thinking, they're always engaged, and that's why they're so good, and that's why they're so why they get the job done, is because it's never enough for them. And again, that was instilled to them from Keith, who expected that from everybody, not only himself but everybody, every single night. And it doesn't surprise me that his boys are representing their teams and playing the way that they are. And I just hope Matthew's okay after his lower body injury the other day, and hopefully he can get back into the game on Thursday, because I don't think he will play on Monday against Sweden. I think they'll keep him out and get some rest.
Yeah, I think that, and it's a smart decision. I mean, they're sitting like leaps ahead in points, and more importantly, you get to see some of these other guys that can kind of step up. I mean, I've loved Matt Boldy's play. I think he's a tremendous forechecker. I
Awesome.
think he's done well, and maybe a guy like him can shine a little bit. Gensel saw him a little bit in Tampa Bay
Yeah.
before I relocated to Boston. So you got other guys where USA's roster can get into that sexier conversation. But
Well,
I don't
it's
know if
funny you
anyone's
said that.
harassed you. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's funny you said that, because I mentioned Matt Boldy with some friends the other day, how impressed I was of watching him. You don't see him very much in Minnesota, but watching him, and there's people that are saying, how come you don't have this player here? How come you don't have this player here? How come you don't have this player here? Of other guys that you could have brought in, but you brought in a guy like Matt Boldy. But you see why, because Matt Boldy is an all-around, complete hockey player that can get it done in any aspect, any situation, and he's a very valuable player. I'm really happy that you mentioned Matt Boldy, because I've been very impressed with him too.
Absolutely. And I don't think he's getting enough credit to his name, because Minnesota has had to change a lot of things around. They've been impacted heavily with injuries. So I feel like he's always just kind of had to apply to what Minnesota needs at that moment. But I'm hoping a tournament like this can highlight just how much and how special Boldy is. And when they get their roster in a healthier place and figure out their lines more consistently, I think Boldy will have a better conversation around his name. But I've loved his play.
Yeah. Well, that just proves it's not just how talented the roster looks.
Mm-hmm.
It's how it's built and what every single player brings to that roster. And the United States has built a very consistent and a very, I think, unique roster where if you want to play really strong defensively, we'll lock it down. You want to play offensive, they got some game breakers that can do that. You have the goal, we have the goaltending. There's every aspect of that bill. It's not just who the best players are, because you know what they always say: hard work will beat talent 7 days a week when talent doesn't want to work. Right?
Exactly.
So these guys, so you need lunch pail guys. Not to say that USA has lunch pail guys, but they definitely have guys that aren't as talented as a McDavid or a McKinnon or Cale Makar, but they have the brains and they're willing to do everything as a team, not just individually. And that's not to say Canada is, but USA is doing it better.